Hey, Christy,
Yeah, Leslie.
did you hear that Arnold Schwarzenegger retired from TV to kill bugs?
No.
Yep. Now he's an exterminator.
Hi, I'm Christy, a backyard gardener from Colorado. These days, gardening has gotten very popular, and my friends and I have noticed more and more people picking our brains for tips and troubleshooting about gardening. We're not experts. We just learned a lot about gardening from the mistakes we made along the way. So welcome to Upside Down Tulips, a fun podcast that celebrates gardening gone wrong.
Upside Down Tulips.
Hello, gardeners.
And hello, wannabe gardeners.
And hello to our wonderful new guest host, Leslie.
Hello there, everyone. See what I did there? That was in honor of the aloe vera plants I saw in Christy's window when I walked up. They are massive and gorgeous.
Oh, that's so nice of you to say. You know, I've had those plants for like 40 years.
You know, my mom always had an aloe vera plant in her in the kitchen because
that's
she was
nice.
constantly burning herself. And I remember as a kid seeing her just break off a branch and put it on her burn.
Yeah, it works wonderful. It's like that. When the pandemic started, I was making my own hand sanitizer out of alcohol and aloe vera.
Oh, that's cool.
Remember when you couldn't find any hand sanitizer
Yeah.
anywhere? Now, of course, it's everywhere again. Well, friends, you may know Leslie, if you live in the Denver metro area, as a truly beloved actor in our
Oh.
community.
Thank you.
But Leslie, we've known each other a long time, haven't we?
Oh, yeah.
The first time I remember you, you didn't meet me. I met you because you were on stage at the Denver Center in the play Wit.
Oh, yeah, that was a long time ago.
And you were so good in that.
Oh,
and
thank you.
I just remember going like, that person is a wonderful actor.
I was very proud of that show, My Sterile Technique, because my dresser, Robin, her mom, was a nurse. And so I learned from her. She taught me how to do the sterile technique.
Oh.
And when the playwright came to see our play, first thing she said to me was, your sterile technique was flawless.
See, look
I was
at
like,
you.
yes, I worked hard on that. You know, after that show it affected me so much that had I been 10 years younger, I think I may have gone to nursing school.
Wow.
Because the difference between a good nurse and, you know, someone who's personable and a bad nurse, someone who's just very technical or whatever, makes a big difference when you're a patient. And I thought, I think I would be good with people.
I could see that part in you too, now that you bring that up.
Yeah, 10 years younger, I would have done it.
Well, the next time I remember meeting you, you were pregnant.
Oh, wow, that was quite some time ago.
And now your daughter's in college.
She is. I just saw her last night. We had dinner with her. I told her she has to come home because I miss her.
Aww.
So she's going to come home for Thanksgiving.
She'll bring laundry with her, right?
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Of course. She says she likes doing laundry. She hates folding the laundry. And I'm like, I will gladly do your laundry for you. Because to me, folding the laundry, it brings me some peace.
I see that. That's how I like weeding.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like weeding, you know, you have something that's all messy and then you weed it and you have automatic satisfaction.
I never thought of that. That's cool.
And we've done plays together before.
Yes.
I remember when I saw you in Wit, I thought, boy, it sure would be an honor someday to work with you.
Oh.
And we've got to do several plays together.
We have. And I mean, our first was Good People, right?
Yeah.
I practiced so hard for that Boston accent. And it took me about 2 years to lose that character because I would practice in the car and I'd be like, get out of my way. Oh, that was terrible. It was a terrible accent. I can't even do it anymore.
And that's how I fell in love with bingo because of that play.
Oh, yeah. It was really fun.
And you've been involved with Upside Down Tulips since almost the very beginning.
Yes, that's true.
Friends who are longtime listeners may know that Leslie is also Phoebe, as in Phoebe's Phenominails.
Phoebe's Phenominails.
And Phoebe's Choice Moist Soil.
Choice Moist Soil.
Shout out to Moist. Hello, Edith, if you're listening, because she hates the word moist.
Moist. Just for you, Edith.
And you fashion yourself as a wannabe gardener, right?
I do. I want to be a gardener because right now I'm not really a gardener. I consider myself the anti-gardener, and I have a black thumb of death.
Oh, no.
Yes, it's true. I inherited that from my mother. Even though I grew up with gardens outside, my mother could never keep a houseplant alive.
Mm.
And I remember when I was a kid, my mom would like be packing up all the houseplants into a box, and she's saying, "We're going to the plant doctor." And then we would go to my grandma's house, which was about 20 minutes away, and she'd drop off all the plants that were dying, and then we'd come back in 2 weeks, and they'd be blooming and beautiful.
Wow.
Yeah.
But yet she loved plants.
She did. She loved plants, and she loved to garden. And her and my father still have a big garden in their backyard. My dad, he was a principal and a football coach, and he, loved the school system, but he really thinks that he's a farmer. So in our backyard, he planted trees, and we always had a big garden, and he would make my mother pick off those bugs on the tomato plants, those big long worms.
Oh, tomato hornworms.
Yes, she would have to pick them off, put them in a bucket, and save them for the chickens.
Oh.
And so my dad would rake leaves around the base of the trees and drop in the tomato worms. And he'd say, "It's good grubbing for my chickens."
That's good grubbing.
Good grubbing.
Those are scary bugs, tomato hornworms.
They're huge.
Yeah.
They're terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah, she'd just pick them off.
There's a certain kind of aphid that loves, a certain kind of bug that likes to use the tomato hornworm as a parasitic
Really?
device. Yeah. So, friends, if you ever see little white pellets on your tomato hornworms, leave them alone because they're going to kill that tomato hornworm from the inside out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, nature's amazing.
It's crazy.
And you have had container plants in your yard, right?
Yes, you inspired me when you first started doing upside down tulips. I had 2 tomato plants in pots, and I called them Tomato Plant Girl after a play that my husband had directed, and Tomato Plant Tot, which was the baby of the 2. And I started really late in the summer, but they grew beautifully. They grew really big, and they had all these yellow flowers on them, so I knew fruit was coming. And then we had a frost, and everything shriveled up.
Oh,
But I was able to salvage 1 tomato.
1.
Just 1.
Nice.
But I dressed it up real nice, and I ate it, and it was delicious.
You have a picture of that, too, you sent me. We'll put it up on Facebook, friends.
Yes, exactly.
Of Leslie's her big tomato harvest.
Yeah, baby tomato.
And you have inside plants, though?
I do. I have some inside plants. I have 2, I don't know what they're called. You know those plants that they grow really tall and then they have a flower at the top and people give them to you?
Orchids?
Orchids!
Okay.
That's it. I have 2 orchids. One named Leaf Leaf, after my friend Leaf, and one named Cloris Leafman, after Cloris Leachman. And then I have another plant, which I call Chloe, and I think, because I remember reading the little stick thing that they put in there to tell you what the plant is,
Uh-huh.
and it was like Clytemnestra or something. I know that's really a Greek tragedy, but something like that.
Yeah, I think I have one of those.
Yeah, and I beg them every day to live.
Aw.
Yeah.
But they do, though, huh?
Yeah, and I have 2 new plants because I had 2 house plants outside that people gave me, and I've brought them inside. I also beg them to live.
I do the same thing, though.
Yeah.
Please don't die on me.
Yeah, please.
It's impressive, I think, that you have orchids, because I have killed a lot of orchids. And people have given me orchids. I'm so happy when I have them. And I can keep it for maybe like 6 months. But after that...
I've been lucky. They've been alive now for... Well, they've both rebloomed.
I'm impressed.
And I think that takes a while. So I think I've had them for a year or maybe even 2 years. Well, no, I think I've had Leaf Leaf from before the pandemic. So that has to be like 3 years.
That's good.
Yeah.
And a rebloom, I've never been able to do that.
Yeah.
So you don't have that much of a black thumb.
Well, I think it's the begging. It's the begging that keeps them alive. And I don't do anything to them. Like I forget about them. I forget to water them and
That
things
might be
like
the
that.
best thing.
Yeah. And then I'll be like, oh, I got to water them. How long has it been? But they seem to be happy.
Well, friends, we'll talk more about that because this week's topic is to all the plants we've killed before. So
Yes.
Leslie and I are going to talk about the plants that we've killed and how you can learn from our mistakes.
And we have a lot of mistakes. I should say, when I say we, I mean me.
Oh, I do too.
I have killed many a plant.
It's funny because I'll be like at a party or a gathering or something like that, and people will talk about their gardens. They'll come up to me all the time now when I talk about their gardens, but then they always kind of qualify by saying, embarrassed about the fact that they've killed plants. I'm like, the brand of this whole podcast is that we're not perfect and we learn from our mistakes.
Exactly.
So,
and that's why I'm here. I'm here to learn. I want to turn my black thumb of death into a green thumb, or at least a gray thumb, or on the way to green. I don't know.
yeah.
I wanted to ask you, how is your garden?
Well, we're kind of at the last stages. We had snow this week.
Oh, right.
And so a lot of things are pretty much done, which on the one hand, I think it's always kind of a nice time of year because there's so much time put into the garden. And lately it's been so much about harvesting. And then once you harvest, you got to figure out what to do with all that harvest. And so now is the time that gardens get to rest a bit. But I do have a couple of things I thought were interesting.
Okay.
And that is, Leslie, I love zucchini. And the big joke, of course, is that when you have a zucchini plant, you have enough for all your neighbors. And in August, there's National Sneak Some Zucchini in Your Neighbor's Porch Day. And you usually have way too much zucchini. And for the past couple of years, I've had a lot of trouble growing zucchini.
Really?
Last year, my plants did not work at all.
Huh.
This year, my plants were not working, and I bought a plant. I planted it in July. And in September, I got my first zucchini.
That's great.
I got one zucchini. It's like your one tomato. And just before the snow fell, I harvested my second zucchini.
2.
So, and it's very strange to harvest a zucchini in November.
Yeah.
We've had such a nice fall. So I got 2 zucchini. Another weird thing that happened is that as I was taking the whole garden down because everything was wrapping up, I realized that next to my butternut squash plant, I had a celery plant. And folks, you may remember this, that Edith and I planted celery in March.
Wow.
And Edith's celery died, and most of mine died. And I kind of forgot about it. And I realized I have a celery plant in my garden, still alive.
That's so cool.
And I'm going to harvest it, I think, because it doesn't mind these cold temps. I think, I'm going to protect it. So I have a little celery plant.
That's
kind of
so
excited
great.
about. I did harvest all the pumpkins. I carved them all for Halloween. Technically, Leslie, I had 7 pumpkins.
Oh, my goodness.
That I grew from seed. The squirrels got 3 of them. But I did carve 4 of them. They were all cat-themed for Halloween. It was kind of fun. Then the squirrels really started going crazy.
Oh, the squirrels. Oh, okay. I see.
Yeah.
I didn't know they like pumpkins.
They eat the whole thing. Seeds and all.
That is crazy.
So now the pumpkins are on the compost pile and the squirrels are going crazy.
Oh.
And my cats are going crazy watching the squirrels going crazy on the pumpkins. But I saved a bunch of seed. It's so satisfying to grow pumpkins. I just love it.
One of my neighbors, her whole front yard is a pumpkin patch.
Oh, nice.
She made these kind of burrow type, what do you call them? Like rows.
Uh-huh.
And she has tons of pumpkins every year.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. Well, I'm going to grow them again, and I saved a bunch of seed. In fact, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to offer seeds to members of our garden party.
Oh, cool.
So, friends, our garden party are people who throw us a couple bucks each month so we can pay the bills and keep doing the podcast.
Nice.
And when I get a lot of seeds from something, I'll give them away to the garden party. So if you are a member, stay tuned and I'll send some pumpkin seeds to you if you want. And if you're not a member, please consider joining the garden party. You'll find that link in our show notes below. And if there are words or terms you're not familiar with, just go to our website at upsidedowntulips.com and you'll find the always informative and humorous Upside Down Dictionary.
Perfect.
And don't forget, we also have merchandise on sale this week, 35% off. So if you want an Upside Down Tulips mug.
Perfect.
You've got a mug, don't you, Leslie?
I do. I love my mug.
Or you can get t-shirts or journals or garden totes or things like that. That's also in the link in the show notes. Okay. You know what we should do now is we should have a pot play, Leslie.
I love it. I can't wait.
We're bringing back, friends, all the way back from one of our first episodes, Phoebe's Phenominails, starring the one and only Leslie O'Carroll.
I love it. What are the sexiest celebrities and hottest influencers posting on Instagram? Their Birkin bags? Their designer dresses? Their cleavage? No, it's their gardener hands.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone who is anyone is gardening these days. Even if you don't garden, you can look fashionable without all the digging, pulling weeds, hoeing, raking. Here at Phoebe's Phenominails, we have the latest trends to help make your quarantine manicure stand out.
Ooh.
Our gardener hands treatment features artisan chip nail polish and real dirt meticulously embedded under your nails.
Ooh.
Plus, our advanced techniques will give you the appearance of cracked cuticles, scrapes and cuts, calluses, and even blisters. Get that rough to the touch look that makes you look like you haven't worn gloves or put on lotion in months. Woo! For a limited time only, get a bottle of our special brittle nail polish as our gift to you. Mask required. Social distancing enforced. And would it kill you to put down your phone and pop in a mint?
It's funny when I think about Phoebe's Phenominails, Leslie, because that was during the pandemic.
Yes.
Just in the heart of everything when you came over and recorded. And you hadn't done a play in over a year. Do you remember that?
Yeah, no, it was terrible. But it was so great to be able to do something creative. And I'm so glad you started Upside Down Tulips, because now it's continuing through. I hope we're past the pandemic.
Yeah. We're endemic, I guess.
Endemic.
Yes.
Oh, that's a good word.
Well, you said in the beginning that you feel like you have a black thumb.
I do.
And it's interesting to me that one of the most common misconceptions about gardening is the idea that you either have a green thumb or you have a black thumb. Because someone who has a green thumb is known to be somebody very successful who can keep plants alive.
Yes.
And someone with a black thumb is known as somebody who would kill plants or unsuccessful with it. It's really not so black and white, though. I think most people kill plants and keep plants alive somewhere in the middle.
Maybe.
I
hope so.
Well, I certainly have killed my fair share of plants.
Oh.
I've overwatered, underwatered, dropped them. I've fried them to a crisp. And a lot of it, I think, is just about research, experimentation, trial and error.
Yes.
When it comes to it. Here's an interesting fact about where the term green thumb comes from.
What's that?
This is according to James Underwood Crockett. It comes from the fact that algae growing on the underside of earthenware pots will stain a person's thumb and their fingers if they handle enough pots. Hence, a person who's always working with flower pots has a green thumb.
That's amazing.
I love word origin categories in Jeopardy, too. I always like that. Here's another theory, that it originated during the reign of King Edward I of England. He was fond of green peas and kept half a dozen serfs, shelling them during the season. The serf who had the greenest thumb won a prize.
Green from shelling the peas. Oh, well, if I missed my time period. I think I'm a master at shelling peas. I remember sitting with my grandmother in Alabama. She'd have a big bag of peas from their garden, and she taught me how to shell peas while sitting there with her when I was little.
Uh-huh.
So I missed my time period. I would have had a green thumb.
You do have a green thumb.
Well, it's getting there. I have to tell you about my little plant that I brought in from outside. You know, we had that freeze, and it's a little mini rose bush that someone gave me for while I was doing a show. And we had that frost, and when I went outside, all its leaves had crunched.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh no, I killed it. But I brought it inside, and I took off everything dead that I could see. And it ended up just having 2 stems sticking up with kind of the dead-headed flowers on the top. And I was like, well, I'm going to stick it in the window and I'm going to forget about it, because that's exactly what happened. I stuck it in the window and then I forgot about it. And when I went back, I remembered, and I went back and I looked at it. It had tiny little green leaves growing. And I literally shouted out, oh my gosh. And I immediately gave it water, put it back into the window, and hopefully it will continue to grow. I felt very good about that.
That little color green.
Tiny leaves.
Yeah.
But I thought I didn't kill it. It'll come back.
It's like that movie Wall-E.
Oh, when
the
he
Pixar
sees
movie, and you just see
sees
that
the
little bit of
green.
green. It's so hopeful and
Exactly.
so wonderful.
Exactly. That was a big moment for me.
Oh, but you've said before when you were younger, you were afraid of gardening.
Oh, totally afraid of gardening. And I was trying to think back, why am I afraid of gardens? And I think I discovered out why. When I was little, not that little. I guess I was probably around 10 or 11. I was with my mom in the garden because we were weeding. She was weeding the garden. And we were also babysitting. And my mom just put the baby down in the garden with us. And we're weeding and everything. And then a little bit later, I hear the baby cry. And I look over and the baby is covered in ants.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, Mom. And my mom's like, it's okay. Just pick her up and brush the ants off. They're not going to hurt her. And I'm like, I can't touch her. I can't.
Oh,
so my mom picked her up and moved her to the grass and brushed all the ants off and she was fine. But I think that has stuck with me my whole life. So I think it's not the dirt that I'm afraid of because I used to eat, mud pies as a kid. I'd make them and eat them. And I'd come in with mouthful of dirt and my mom would be like, have you been eating dirt? And I'd be like, no. She said I was very convincing, even though there was a ring of dirt around my mouth. And that's probably why I became an actress. But so I know it's not the plants. I know it's not the dirt. I think it's the bugs. I think it's ants.
Yeah,
is that a thing?
Yeah, well, I think it must be. And there's a lot of little creepy crawlies in the garden. A lot of them are good for gardening.
I don't like spiders either.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you come across those in gardening. You have to, there's some people who are afraid of worms too, which are the nicest little critters.
Okay.
Yeah, I think understanding that a lot of little critters are good for the garden.
So what do I do? Do you just wear gloves or something?
Yeah,
I mean,
sure.
how do you get past that?
I think exposure. But nobody likes a lot of any bug.
No.
Like a couple bugs around, but if it's a lot.
I don't like those beetles either. Those pretty beetles.
Oh, the Japanese beetles.
Yeah, I don't like those either.
Yeah, those are creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're quite satisfying though to smush and to kill though.
Well, I had a bucket in my on my porch so that I could water my geranium. I was like, I'll just keep water in the bucket. And a bunch of those little green bugs were like floating around in there. So I think I caught some without even meaning to.
Next time, put a couple drops of dish soap in there. Because what will happen then is that the bugs will fall into the water, but the soap will prevent them from flying out and they'll drown.
Oh, okay. Got to get rid of the bugs.
Well, there are quite a few reasons why we accidentally kill our plants.
Oh, I wanted to ask you about that. So I was house sitting for my friend Sharon. And there was that freeze. And she asked me to bring in 2 of her plants. And I said, okay, where do you want them? And she said, just put them in the hallway. So I put them in the hallway. I watered them, not too much because I was afraid of overwatering, but I watered them till they were moist. And then I came back about 3 days later and they were all yellow.
Was the hallway dark?
Yes.
So a big reason why we kill our plants is either too much or not enough light.
Oh.
So it's possible that they didn't have enough light. And this happened to me, Leslie, this summer, where I was on vacation. I was gone for 17 days. And my house isn't air conditioned, so I always close everything up during the daytime so it cools down. And I have a very complicated system of opening and closing.
Right.
I don't expect my house sitters to do all that, right?
Right.
I mean, I was asking them to water the outside garden and take care of my cats.
Perfect.
So when I got home, I think they kept the shades and everything closed up a lot during the day. And so my spider plants and my ficus plant, they almost died. I brought them back. But they probably went too long without light.
Oh, that's probably
Or in the dark,
I
I came home and the ficus had dropped half its leaves. And the spider plants, the leaves had all turned black.
Black?
Yeah, yellow. At first, they must have gone the yellow phase and black. And so I repotted the spiders. And then I have kind of left my ficus alone, just kind of watering it occasionally. But light is a big reason why we kill our plants.
On the stuff that was black, are you supposed to cut that off?
Yep,
or
took it all off. Yeah,
Oh,
it's
you
not
did.
going to turn green again.
What about the yellow? Will that turn green?
Also, a really great question. The yellow most likely will not turn green again.
So you have to take it off.
Yeah, and another big reason why we kill plants, and this is inside and outside, is either overwatering or underwatering. And probably, I think inside, people will have a tendency to overwater more. So, Leslie, the fact that you ignore your plants, it's better to underwater your plants.
That's probably why they love me now. They're like,
true.
she just forgets about us.
Yeah.
She leaves us alone. Otherwise, they're like, look, she's coming with more water. No.
They can literally drown. Plants can.
Oh.
With too much water. They don't have enough oxygen. And they can also, inside plants can get root rot.
Oh, no.
And so what will happen if you overwater plants is that leaves will turn yellow and your plant will die. And the best cure for that is to repot it.
Oh.
So take your plants out, give them all new soil, trim back the roots a bit more to get rid of any moldy roots and give it a fresh new start. If it's outside, boy, that's tough. Like here in the Denver metro area, we never have a problem with nature overwatering.
Right. So dry.
We always have the opposite problem. But our listeners, in the East Coast or in the Pacific Northwest where they get a lot of rain, you have to be, there's not much you can do, but you can keep an eye on to make sure that about getting a fungus or a mold.
Oh.
And you can put down a fungicide. You can make your own fungicide, which is just water and baking soda spray.
Really?
Yeah. I spray it on my cucumbers, on my pumpkin plants, a gallon of water and a teaspoon of baking soda to help combat powdery mildew or fungus.
Wow, I did not know that.
Yeah. And so if you overwater, you get yellow leaves and they die. If you underwater, yellow leaves and your plants die.
Beware the yellow leaf.
Yeah. Always, you just stick your finger in the pot. That's the best way to do it.
That's what I did at Sharon's house. That's why I'm like, I know I didn't overwater them.
Yeah.
And they were still moist when I came back, but they had those yellow leaves. That's why I was confused.
So annoying. And careful of not thinking about your plants have a schedule. Like all your plants get all watered on the same day every week because the humidity can change in your house and plants will grow and need more water or less water. In the winter, don't water your house plants as much.
Oh, that's good to know.
Cut back because the plants will go more dormant. So you can water half as much as you would in the winter than you would in the summer.
Okay, I have one question about the indoor plants that are in the window. Sometimes my window gets really cold and they're right next to that. Do I have to do anything to them? Do I have to wrap them up or anything?
Do they look happy or do they?
Well, they're alive. That makes me happy.
Yeah,
so
I've had that same thing, Leslie, because I have up in my kitchen, I have a bunch of jade plants. And I live in a 1932 house with single pane original windows.
Exactly.
And the plants are right up next to that. But it also gets a lot of sun too. And because it faces there's a south facing window. So I turn the plants like every week.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Now, why do you do that?
Because, the plants will grow toward the sun and I don't want them to get like...
Mine actually do grow toward that window.
Yeah.
So I should turn them?
Turn them.
Oh.
Yeah. And then I guess keep an eye. But I guess my plants haven't gotten... But I'm worried about that too.
Yeah.
If they get too cold. But
so it's not the leaves that you worry about, right? It's just the whole plant. If it looks good, then it's okay?
Fine, yeah, I think you're okay.
All right.
Okay, well, keep us posted.
Oh, I will.
On your plants. And I also want to say as we get to our next pod play here that part of my taking down all my garden is that I had this huge fence of morning glories. And because of the frost, because morning glories are so sensitive to it, that they all finally die.
Oh.
But that's November, which is a long time. And every day this summer, these beautiful morning glories where the flowers would open up and then they live for one day and then they die. They just give us beautiful gift of a flower and then they're done. And our dear friend of the podcast, Jim Hunt, actually wrote this beautiful ode to morning glories that we're really excited to share with everybody right now.
I can't wait to hear it. I love him.
If this musing has a title, it would be A Prose Ode to a Morning Glory. I've always been unpretentiously delighted by flowers and their names. Not their botanical names, but rather the fanciful, often whimsical ones. It's always been a mystery to me that people can admire the beauty and scent of a flower and have no interest in knowing its name. When I lived in the mountains, I was obsessed with finding out the names of everything that grew around my house and on the hikes I took. My guide to Rocky Mountain wildflowers was always with me, and I know I often spent more time searching through the book than looking at the living flower I was trying to name. As Shakespeare's Juliet says, a rose by any other name would smell as sweet. And of course that's true. A flower with any other name or no name at all is still as beautiful and as fragrant. So why, I often ask myself, does knowing the name add value? As a student of general semantics, I know that the word is not the thing, that knowing the name of something can trick us into thinking we know everything about it and give us a false sense of power over it. But I don't think my thirst for knowing the names of flowers is tinged with any of that kind of darkness. In fiction, especially in plays, we often encounter ticket names. Most likely humorous, a ticket name can hold the essence of a character in a single word. Sir Toby Belch, Mistress Overdone, Sir Andrew Ague-Cheek, Inspector Doppler, to name just a few. So many floral ticket names come to mind. Johnny Jump Up, Evening Primrose, Monk's Hood, Basket of Gold, Lamb's Ears, Queen Anne's Lace, Black-Eyed Susan, Sunflower. The other morning I went outside early and was greeted by a host of just opened pink and purple morning glories, so fresh, so fragile. How aptly named, I said to them out loud. After growing and twining and budding for weeks, each flower gets the morning of one day to flaunt its glory before beginning to shrivel and fade away. It would be so easy to say, "What's the point?" and completely miss the point.
Thank you, Jim Hunt. That was beautiful.
She's so good.
Well, we've talked about ways that you can kill your plants. Overwater, underwater, too much light, not enough light. Another big way that people can kill plants is how you transport them, how you move them.
Oh, yes, that's true. I have a story from my daughter, which I'm afraid I'm passing on my black thumb to my poor daughter. Someone gave her a beautiful plant that she had in her dorm all year, or, it was great. But then she moved home and she was with us for the whole summer. And as we were getting ready to move her back up to school, we opened up a trunk and there was a very dead, shriveled up plant inside that trunk. It had been in the trunk for the entire summer. And I was like, Olivia, why did you put that plant in the trunk? And she said, well, I didn't know what to do with it. I thought it would be safe in there. And then, of course, she forgot about it. And it was very, very dead.
Oh, what kind
She
of
did
plant?
feel really bad. I don't even know. You couldn't tell. You couldn't tell what kind of plant that was. I asked her, I said, what was that? And she's like, I don't know. It was a plant.
Oh.
So it's a valid question. How do you move your plants? So I called my friend Rose, who she's had 2 significant moves in the last 5 years. And she's never lost a plant. And so I asked her, I said, well, what did you do? And she said, one thing that you can do is you can wrap the plants. Like she wrapped all her plants in paper, like parchment paper, to kind of make like a funnel so that they'd be open at the top, but they'd be protected on the sides. Another thing that she did is she put all her plants in like a tub, so next to each other so that they don't move or shift back and forth a lot, to kind of protect them. And she said anything that had a stalk, she would actually take like a chopstick or some kind of rod and she would kind of tie it loosely to that stalk so that it had extra support when, your truck is moving back and forth or your car or however you're moving. And she would also put them in the cab, like if one of them was a moving truck, but she took all the plants and put them in the cab.
Oh, gotcha.
So that they had some kind of light coming.
Light. Yeah.
And she said also, which I didn't even know there was this thing, she would put, she called them water bulbs. and you fill them with water,
Uh-huh.
and then you turn them upside down and you put them into the plant, and then it slow drips. And so they get as much water as they need. And I was like, I need those. I got to find those because.
Yeah, because if you have a moving van, that could be a week.
Oh, exactly. Exactly. She also said that she would put a stick of plant food, which I've never heard of that.
Yeah,
What is
they're
that?
called Job's Plant Spikes. And they're slow release, and you can get them in any box store or your local nursery. And it's fertilizer. And it's just like the slow release water container those little globes that you can put in and turn upside down. And some of those globes are really pretty too.
Oh, yeah.
They'll be made out of glass and different
Cool.
colors. And
can I get that at just like a nursery? Or?
yeah, you know what? Who I think I know who would have it too is one of my favorite catalogs, Leslie, is called Gardener's Supply.
Oh.
And I get a lot of I get my tomato cages from Gardener's Supply. It's a great company that's based out of the East Coast, and the employees all own the company.
Oh, that's cool. So I could just order them from them, and then they'll just come to me.
Yeah, in fact, somewhere here, I'll give you a copy of my catalog.
Okay.
You go home and you could take a look at it.
Are they? Do they have sizes like big ones and little
I
ones?
think they're like the size, I'm assuming like a baseball size.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I've moved plants before cross country and didn't do any of that, but my plants are a little bit more sturdy, I think, than your friend Rose. Like those aloe veras that you admired. Those were in a moving van for 2 days. Well, they were able to, but it can be scary. And even, Leslie, when you're just when you buy a plant at a store and you're bringing it home to your house, you have to be careful about how you transplant it so that it doesn't get jostled around.
Right.
That you have to be careful what the temperature is outside. What's the temperature in your car? What's the temperature, especially if you buy a plant in the winter and you're going to put it in your car, you should make sure you wrap it up.
Well, and she did all those things, and that was great. But she told me the number one thing that she did, and she swears by this, is that she told her plants what was happening. She spoke to her plants. She read this book called The Secret Life of Plants, and it was written by a guy who was like a lie detector master, and he was testing out new equipment or something, and he just needed to attach his electrodes to just something, and he didn't have anything, so he just attached them to the plants. And then he started to see when someone came in and things happened, the electrodes started moving, the lie detector, I don't know what you call that, like the needle. And he started doing experiments. He'd have someone come in and yell and see what happened. He'd have someone come in and to put on music and things like that. And what he realized is that plants are sentient. They're aware of what's happening around them. Isn't that fascinating?
Just like trees, Leslie, will talk to each other.
What?
And they will know whether or not they need to create more, release different nutrients into the ground. They communicate through their leaves and through their roots about what nutrients they need and need to share with each other, or like what they'll share, like what insects or pests are bothering them.
That is fascinating.
So they'll develop, they put up their defense systems up.
Wow, that's really cool. That's very, very cool. I think there was a movie made about how trees talk to each other and then killed all the people. I'm just saying. I mean, it was their revenge.
Who can blame them?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I love aspen trees, and I know that they talk to each other. Yeah. They're like a big...
The largest, one of the largest living organisms in the world is in Utah.
Really?
Which has the largest aspen grove in the world.
Oh, wow.
The only thing I think that's bigger, there's some large fungus in Europe that is bigger than the aspen grove in Utah.
Oh,
that's
wow.
the largest living thing in the world.
I think that's super cool.
I do too. I love that. And
yeah.
I love the fact about talking to your plants and telling them what's going on. And I also love how you name all your plants.
I do. I name my plants. And again, as I said before, I beg them to live. And they watch TV with me. So,
That's awesome.
So they like my programming, I guess, because they're still alive.
Well, I've also, I've killed plants vicariously through my cats.
Oh, no.
So, pets have killed my plants before. Especially these two cats I have right now, Leonardo DiCaprio and Cat Winslet. Leo loves plants. He loves to chew on them. He loves to dig on them. My spiders that are hanging. He has figured out how to reach up and grab onto the tassels of the
Oh,
hang
no.
plant. And I'm just thinking, like, someday he's going to pull that whole thing down. And he loves spider plants. And of course, they make him sick, so he chews on them and then he throws up. He loves to dig in the ficus plant. And so what we kind of figured out, though, is that what he does not like is he doesn't like sticky tape.
Oh.
So when we first got him, we put sticky tape on the tassels of the plant and inside bigger plants that he loved to dig in, and he would stay away from it. So that was working great.
That's great.
And then we got Winnie. And Winnie loves the sticky tape.
Oh.
So she loves to chew on the sticky tape. So it's kind of a vicious cycle of like having sticky tape to keep Leo off the plant. Leo loves to dig. He loves to knock off plants. So you can see in here, I had these two little shelves that are in these windows here. These clear things.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah, that worked out. Those shelves worked out really great until Leo figured out how to get up there. And I had these pothos plants, and he kept knocking those off.
I really need to get one of those shelves because I've got my geranium plant, and I have no place in my window to put it. And I know it's supposed to have some sunlight. And so I got to get that, because if I got that, it could sit on there in the window up above, because I only have 2 windows that get light. Otherwise, I live in a cave and, that have a shelf. You know? And I've got to have light for my plants. And the one window is full of, Leaf Life is there, and Cloris Leafman and Chloe. But now I've got Rosie and I've got Jerry, my geranium. And so if I get one of those shelves, I can put them both in the front window.
And friends, these are like little clear plastic shelves with suction cups on it. So you can just stick it right onto a window.
Genius.
For your plant. And that's great about you brought your geranium in. Now I've also killed geraniums before because I did not overwinter them properly. And folks, if you don't realize this, you can overwinter your geraniums in any zone that you live in. So when you get near your first frost, I brought in all my geraniums this weekend, and Leslie, here's what I did. I trimmed them back at least half.
Mine is about to like flower. Where do I trim? Do I trim the bottom?
Yeah. If you want to keep your flowers in, they're going to get, what's the word I'm trying to say? They might get a little scraggly inside.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. They get too long. So that's what I did is I trimmed them by half, trimmed them all back. And then I took the whole plant and I put it in a huge bucket of soapy water.
The whole plant?
The whole plant, and I let it sit in there for
Do you mean in the pot, or you took it out of the pot?
Okay. It was in the pot, and I put the pot and the plant in a larger bucket of soapy water and let it sit in there for just a few minutes because I'm trying to kill the bugs.
Oh no, it has bugs?
It might.
Oh dear.
Or maybe not.
I got to do that.
So I soaked it in soapy water to drown the bugs, just like we talked about with Japanese beetles. And then I don't have room at all I have like 7 or 8 geranium plants. I don't have room for them all to be in the house. So I put them up in my attic, which has windows.
Genius.
But I have to give myself a monthly note to say, water the geraniums, because I can forget them up there. As friends know, I've forgotten tomatoes up in my attic, and they all became shrivelly little.
I remember that.
Strange fungus experiments. So I gave myself a monthly note to go up and in my calendar to go up and water the geraniums once a month. And then I'll bring them back outside when the temperatures get warm again in May.
That's awesome.
But I've made the mistake of thinking like, well, I can just put them in my garage. Didn't work. It was too cold in the garage, and they died and they didn't come back.
Oh.
The attic seems to be kind of a nice place.
Well, it's warm. Well, hot air rises, so it must be warm up there.
Warm-ish. You know, like I said, single pane windows, drafty house. It gets cold up there. But I think they like it. Well,
I'm going to get one of those shelves, and I'm going to put that geranium on a shelf.
What's your geranium's name?
Jerry.
So original.
I'm not very creative with the names. I tried to think of all these great names, and I'm like, yeah, I'll remember Jerry. So.
Well, here, friends, are, in theory, some easy plants not to kill. A Sansevieria, which is also known as a snake plant.
What's that?
Also known as a mother-in-law's tongue, but I never really liked that name because I love my mother-in-law and she's awesome. But it's got spiky leaves. I've killed it. A rubber plant, also supposed to be a very easy plant.
Oh, my friend Sharon has a rubber plant, and it's beautiful and very hardy. It survived outside in that cold.
Ooh, I've had one before. I've killed it. A Swiss cheese plant, which has big leaves and like holes in it.
Really?
Supposed to be easy to grow. I've killed one of those. Pothos, which is I've killed pothos before.
What's that?
It's a vining plant, and it can have variegated leaves, and the leaves look like little hearts. Also looks like a philodendron in a way. And I've killed that. I've had it before. Too much sun, not enough sun. Too much water, not enough water. And I've had Leo has killed pothos for me too. So,
but you gave me a good idea with this shelf thing on how to get more light, plants more light. I think I'm going to take my little Cleo plant, Clytemnestra, and I think I'm going to hang it like you hang your spider plants.
Oh, yeah.
Because if it hangs in the window, A, it will create more space for me to put my plant there. But B, it'll still get sun from hanging.
Well, here's to hoping we don't
I don't want to kill it.
Plants in the future.
Exactly.
And we hope we have helped you a little bit, friends, about, how not to kill your plants. And if you kill your plant, it's okay.
Just get another one. Try again. Try again.
To all the plants I've killed before. Leslie, guess what time it is?
What time is it?
It's mailbag time.
Ring, ring.
Because the postman always rings twice. All right. So this week we are sharing a letter from one of our favorite beloved listeners, Doug from Tennessee. And he wrote into us because at some episode we were talking about the importance of ketchup. And he wrote into us to explain more about some ketchup recipes. So Leslie, share the letter with us.
Okay. He says, I thought some of your listeners might find non-tomato ketchups interesting and a way to make use of some interesting garden produce. Although the watermelon ketchup sounds like an awful lot of work for the amount of ketchup you can end up with. Watermelon ketchup?
Yeah.
That sounds very interesting.
Isn't that? And Doug always poses the most interesting questions. Friends might remember that he's also the gentleman who wrote to us about pawpaws.
Pawpaws?
Which is a plant in the South that has a fruit that's like a banana.
Oh, pawpaws. That was in the play Hurricane Diane. They talked about pawpaw trees.
Exactly. Good job.
I remembered.
Well, here's what his article was saying, which I thought was interesting, that ketchup isn't only tomatoes. There's a whole world of flavorful and surprising ketchup flavors out there.
Ketchup is a very important part of my family.
Is it?
Yes. The only way I could ever get my daughter to eat eggs when she was little was to put ketchup on them. And my brother puts ketchup on everything. When he was a kid, my mom would buy big bottles of ketchup and wrap them up and give them to him for Christmas. And he loved it. He'd be like, it's my ketchup. No one touch it. Yeah. So I'm very interested to know other ketchups.
Well, the word ketchup is based on the Chinese word ketchup, and it started off as a fish sauce.
Really?
The most common was anchovies that were fermented and dissolved in brine.
Ay, ay, ay.
So sailors discovered it, and they brought it to Europe in the 1600s, and cooks then began to experiment with it, and they added and subtracted ingredients over the next several centuries. In the 1700s, that brought the use of the tomato, and they called it like a tomato soy.
Oh.
In the 1780s, ketchup, which was runny and had little or no sugar, was brought to the Americans. And of course, you bring it to America, and what are we going to do? We're
Put sugar in it.
That's right. And so James Meese published the first tomato ketchup recipe in 1812.
Wow.
Even though you can find references to ketchup in print as far back as 1690.
That's crazy.
And so not only can you have tomato ketchup, you can also have bacon ketchup.
That sounds good. What's that? How do I make that?
That's by taking tomatoes and bacon and boiling it down the same way you would make ketchup.
Oh.
You can also make a hot pepper ketchup, which sounds to me a little bit like sriracha.
Oh,
or like
yeah,
a hot
yeah.
sauce, right? But just boiled down more.
I'm not a fan of spicy, but,
The watermelon ketchup was made by taking a lot of watermelon and pulsing it and then sieving it through to get rid of all the fibers in it, and then boiling the watermelon down and then adding vinegar. So what I kind of noticed with a lot of these recipes is that it's sweet and savory.
Well, what would you put that on? Like a salad?
Yeah, I bet you could put like anything you would put ketchup on.
Really?
Yeah.
Like a hamburger?
Yeah.
Huh.
I made a tomato jam
You did?
Yeah.
That sounds good.
And it's essentially like a tomato chutney, but with sugar. But I think it's like if you like the vinegar and the sweet together. There was a banana mango ketchup that I thought looked really good.
That sounds so good.
And I thought like that would be like you could dip chicken in it, or you could use it for chips, or
It's kind of salsa-y,
yeah, I think so.
except maybe a little smoother.
Yeah.
Oh,
But
I like that.
But yeah, and it's a good reminder, like all the different things, especially this time of year when you have all this, as we're winding down and all this produce is finally in the house. And now what do you do with it all besides tomatoes?
That sounds so good. I think what it would be good on, like, what if you had your zucchini noodles?
Oh,
And then
yeah.
you put it on kind of like a tomato sauce, like you would put on.
Yeah.
But you'd put that on, kind of mix it up, and it'd be like a lot of vegetables, very good for you. It
I
feels
think
like.
so. Yeah. Well,
Very
if
healthy.
anybody else has made unique ketchups, I hope you will let us know about it. Or if you have garden questions, if you have solutions on how to not kill your plants,
We want to know. We want to hear.
if you have killed a plant, we want to know, we want to hear.
Yeah.
Please write to us at upsidedowntulips.com or at upsidedowntulips@gmail.com.
And listen, I am a perfect example of someone who doesn't know anything about gardening or plants, and yet I'm here learning, and you can start from nothing. So join us.
Yes.
So, Christy, do you have any inspiration for us this week? I know I could use some.
This week's inspiration comes from Jose Olivares. He says, I killed a plant once because I gave it too much water. Lord, I worry that love is violence.
That's good. Don't overwater.
That's right. Don't overwater. Well, folks, you've reached the end of another episode of Upside Down Tulips. We are Christy Montour Larson and Leslie O'Carroll.
And if you got some laughs and some value out of this week's episode, could you do us a small favor?
Hit that subscribe, like, or follow button wherever you listen to your podcasts.
And thank you so much to Denise Gentilini for composing and performing the Upside Down Tulips theme song, which is amazing.
And if you want more, go to denisegentilini.com, or you can find that link at upsidedowntulips.com.
And many thanks to the many talents and kind heart of our dear, dear friend Jim Hunt.
Thank you, Jim.
Join us in 2 weeks for another episode that will delight and amaze you and hopefully inform you.
And don't forget, if you make a mistake,
Your garden will forgive you. Thank you, garden.
thank you, Garden.
Upside down tulips.
Hey, Leslie,
Yeah,
what's a pirate's favorite plant?
I don't know.
An artichoke.